Good morning, students. Today we are going to cover electric flux and Gauss theorem in detail. Let us start with area vector first.
The only thing which you have to firstly understand is that whenever we are taking any area, then it has some magnitude as well as it has some direction. And to understand it, what is the importance of the direction when I'm talking about the area, you can take it like the flow of water. You can consider in your mind that whenever the water is coming out of the pipe, then what happens if you hold the pipe in a particular direction, then the amount of water which is coming will be different. So means magnitude is also there as well as direction, where you put the, how you keep the tube with you, that also makes the change. And that is the reason whenever I talk about the area, I have to talk about its direction also along with the magnitude. So area is taken as a vector quantity, and what will be the direction of that? That is only taken perpendicular. It means if I am having any plane area with me, then the area vector is taken perpendicular outward normal. It is perpendicular to the surface area and is taken outward. This is taken by convention only, just to make the things easy to study when we deal with the things further. It means again to say that area is to be treated as a vector because it has both magnitude. This is the magnitude. If I am taking a planar area, then length into breadth will give me the magnitude of the area. But what about the direction? Direction will be always perpendicular to it, taken in the outward direction. But if I don't have any specified surface, it means I may have curved surface with me. In that case, we will be dividing that surface into the smaller parts. We will be taking for one part, like here we have shown you the small area ds, again the planar area we have taken out of this curved surface, and your area vector is normal, perpendicular I mean, and is in the outward direction. It is denoted by n cap, or you may simply denote it by s cap or ds cap for the small area. For a given area, you can show it by the s cap. Cap means we are talking about the unit vector, which is giving me the direction of the area vector. So area vector is always perpendicular outward. It is taken by convention only. So if I take the rest of the areas, I can combine the magnitudes and the direction also to be combined by vector knowledge. So this is just to understand that area is taken as a vector quantity and direction of the planar area is along the normal and of course in the outward direction. What is the need to understand the area vector? For that, again the next quantity with you is, that is we have to talk about the electric flux, which is because we have discussed in the previous lecture about the field lines. Electric field lines, of course, which are passing through a surface. Like if I have taken this as a surface, then field is like this, then direction of field is known to me. And if I keep it at some angle, I keep this surface at some angle, but my area vector will always be perpendicular outward direction. So this is giving me the direction of the area vector. This s cap is to be written. And if I talk about the magnitude and direction both, then I will be writing it by s vector. So electric flux can be related with the flow of water, but actually field is not flowing because we are talking about the electrostatics. Charges are at rest. This is simply to make the concept clear with you, that you can keep the flow of water in your mind to understand the things. That when we change the direction of the pipe, then the flow of the water changes its direction. And here what we are doing is, this is the new quantity with you, that is electric flux, which is denoted by phi. You can pronounce it as phi, phi. This is the symbol in front of you. which is given by the dot product of the electric field and the area vector. It means E dot S. So if I want to find the flux, then I have to take the component of electric field in the direction of the area vector. It means this is the direction of E as shown. Here you can see the direction of E is here this way. This is the electric field going to its right direction. This I have kept the area at some angle. At some angle I have kept. So what it is to be done, we have to take the component of E in the direction of the area vector. Like we do in the 11th class also, we have learned how to take the component of a given vector in the other direction. So it means I have to resolve E if this angle is taken as theta. Theta is the angle between E and S vector. Then here will be the E cos theta. So I can write E cos theta into S. So other way I can say that I can write it as the dot product of two vector quantities. One is electric field. I know the direction of electric field is same as that of electrostatic force, which we have done till now. And I want to take the component of this electric field in the direction of the area vector. So E cos theta into S. So I can write it as ES cos theta or E dot S. Being the dot product of two vectors, it is a scalar quantity. So electric flux is a scalar quantity being the dot product of two vector quantities. Now if I don't have a planar area like I was showing you in the previous diagram, that I have any curved surfaces there, then I will be taking the small areas. Then I will be talking about the small electric flux, that is d phi, which is given by E dot ds, or I can write it as E ds cos theta. Definition: if you want to define electric flux, it is defined as the number of electric field lines passing through the surface perpendicularly. It means normally. And being the dot product, it is a scalar quantity. You can write its unit. For electric field, it is Newton per coulomb, and for this area, it is meter square. So the unit is Newton meter square per coulomb. Or you can write it in terms of voltmeter also, which you will understand when we will talk about the potential. You can always calculate the dimensional formula by putting the dimensions of E and the area vector, which is coming out to be ML3 T minus 3 A minus 1. Your electric field is in the same direction of the area vector. Then it means what? Area vector is always perpendicular. So it means E is also perpendicular to the planar area. So angle between E and S is 0. Theta is what? Theta is the angle between the electric field and the area vector. So theta is 0. It means field lines are perpendicular to the surface, and normal is always perpendicular. It means area vector is always perpendicular, but electric field also if acts perpendicular, then theta is 0. Then your electric flux, you can write phi will be equals to E dot ds. E ds cos theta. Cos 0 is 1. It means flux you will be getting the maximum value. That is E into S. But if theta is 90, it means it is perpendicular. It means it is parallel to the area vector. Field lines are parallel to the area vector, but area vector is always perpendicular. So the angle between E and S is 90. Then it will not cross it. It means flux will be equals to 0. Or in another way, you can say if theta is lying between 0 to 90, then flux will be positive. If theta is lying between 90 to 180, it means if area vector is in this direction but field is acting in the opposite direction, 180 angle, then this will be minus ES. So flux will be negative. So your flux can be positive, negative or 0 depending upon the value of theta. I'm repeating, flux can be positive, negative or 0 depending upon the value of theta. Here as we have shown, this is the plane making an angle theta ds. Theta is the angle between the E vector and the area vector. So if it is lying between 0 to 90, this angle, then flux will be positive. If it is 90, flux will be 0. If it is lying between 90 to 180, then flux will be negative. Another way to write flux for the smaller areas, you can, of course, we have discussed, you can write it as E ds cos theta. And whenever you have to find the total flux through the surface, then you may take the summation of all the small components, or we can take the integration also. So depending upon, as in the numerical, whenever it comes, you have to take integration or summation. If small parts are given to you, you can directly go with summation, or if a limit is given, then you can go with the integration. So this is simply for dealing with the numericals whenever you come across. This is a simple question in front of you. I'm reading it out for you. An electric field is there, E, which is given by 3I cap plus 4J cap plus 3K cap Newton per coulomb. It is applied to an area of 100 units in XY plane. Area is in XY plane. It means area vector will be perpendicular to XY plane. So it will be along the Z direction. And for Z direction, you will be writing area vector as 100 K cap, because K cap is simply the symbol to show the unit vector along Z direction.
So if you know the area vector which is 100 K cap, so you can find the flux which is given by E dot ds. E vector is already given. You all are aware of the dot product of the vectors. So with I and K it will be done in class 11th. If I am taking dot product with itself, then only it is 1. I dot I is 1, because I dot I means I cos theta, 1 cos theta, and cos 0 is 1. Similarly, J dot J is 1 and K dot K is 1. But because here there is no component of dot product with I and J, so that will not be considered. Only we have to take K dot K. K dot K will be 1, so 3 into 100 will be 300 units. Units you already know, Newton meter square per coulomb. So you will write the units. Similarly, you may be asked with one more question is there. Again, electric field is given which is acting along x-axis, because it is written I cap only. So it means electric field is acting along x-axis. You have to find the flux of this field through a square of 10 centimeter on a side whose plane is parallel to yz. Parallel to yz means it is again in the x-axis only. So E and your area vector will be in the same direction. So you will be having cos 0. So flux can be found simply by multiplying E and area vector magnitude only, and you will be getting the result. Second part says what is the flux through the same square if normal to its plane makes an angle 60 degree with the x-axis. It means theta is given to you 60 degree here. So you can directly put the value of theta in the formula, which is cos 60, and again by putting the value of E and delta S they have given you 10 centimeter square. You have to take square is of 10 centimeter. So you will be converting it into meters of this to get the result. So you have to take care of the units to get the answer of this. Very important topic with you, which you will be doing with the knowledge of electric flux and area vector of this. So the topic with you is you have to state Gauss theorem. Gauss has given a theorem. According to this, whatever flux is passing through an area enclosing a charge is equals to 1 upon epsilon naught times the charge enclosed by that surface. So what it is? Flux is given by 1 upon epsilon naught into the charge. If I am taking small q is the charge enclosed, this is the surface. Of course, whenever a point positive charge is there, then at a particular distance if we draw a sphere, this is an imaginary sphere with me, which is termed as Gaussian surface. Gauss has assumed that for the convenience to calculate the things comfortably, this electric field for the positive charge is in the outward direction. We have already done. If I take the small area element, for the small area element, this area vector is always normal, perpendicular, and So what it is, that your flux, which is by the definition of flux, it is given by the surface integral of E dot ds at a given surface. If I take the surface integral for E dot ds, this is equals to 1 upon epsilon naught times the charge enclosed, and here we have taken small q as the charge enclosed, so flux can be written as q upon epsilon naught. This spherical surface which is drawn here, this is an hypothetical surface. Just for doing the work more comfortable, he has assumed these surfaces, and you can find the flux by using this Gauss theorem for any given charge. So this was the statement of Gauss theorem. According to it, the electric flux which is passing through an area enclosing a charge is equals to 1 upon epsilon naught times the amount of charge enclosed. And mathematically this is the formula which you can write. Phi E is simply electric field, because we will be talking about the field, magnetic field also in 12th class, and that is why if you want to be more comfortable later on, you may keep writing it phi E in place of simply phi. And then for magnetic flux we will be write by phi B. So we can give different symbols, but if you are comfortable simply writing phi at this minute, because we have only done with electric field, that is also correct, no problem. We want to prove the Gauss theorem. For proving the Gauss theorem, again the same point charge I have taken, positive point charge I have taken, and we are making a Gaussian surface by taking small r as the radius. We have drawn a sphere around this positive charge, and when the charge is positive, field lines are in the outward direction. And of course we have studied field lines are always perpendicular to the surface, so direction of field lines is perpendicular, area vector is always perpendicular. So in this case your electric field and area vector both are in the same direction. So by the definition of electric flux, E ds cos theta, theta is 0 in this case, so I can write it simply E ds. But you have studied the electric field due to the point charge, and that is given by q upon 4 pi epsilon naught r square, and this ds will be written as it is. So flux is given by surface integral of 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught q upon r square ds. Now this r is fixed in this diagram. You can see radius is fixed, that is not changing. Charge q is also fixed, that is also not changing. So epsilon naught permittivity is also constant, so this whole term is constant. You can take it out from the integration, and you have to simply find the surface integral of ds. Integral of ds means the area, s only, s of this spherical surface. So area of sphere is 4 pi r square if r is the radius. Then integral of ds can be written as 4 pi r square, and if I put the value of ds integral equals to 4 pi r square, you are left with only q upon epsilon naught, which was given by the statement of the Gauss. So flux is given by q upon epsilon naught by taking, this is the proof for the Gauss theorem. Simply by putting the value of E and ds we could get the result. It means electric flux due to a charge which is enclosed is independent of the location of the charge, means it is not dependent upon r. Wherever I take the r, I may take at any particular distance, and flux will be independent of r. It depends upon the charge which is being enclosed and medium, permittivity. If supposingly I am not keeping the charge in the air or vacuum, I am keeping it in some medium, then epsilon naught will be replaced by epsilon, and of course epsilon, you know, it is equals to epsilon naught epsilon r. Relative permittivity will always be given. So this can be modified only if I change the medium. Flux will change if I change the medium or I change the value of charge, but is independent of the distance from the charge where we are assuming the Gaussian surface. So it means that is why wherever I may suppose the Gaussian surface, it is not affecting my result. So that is only for the convenience. So you have to keep all these points in your mind that Gauss law is true for any closed surface, whatever may be its shape or size, because it is independent of the distance wherever we are taking it. Second thing you have to note that when I talk about the charge, it means I may have a single charge or I may have two charge. Conservation of charge we have always studied. So if it is located anywhere in the surface, you have to take the sum of all the charges, keeping of course the sign into your mind. And of course third point is that when the surface you are choosing, whatever on the left hand side, when I am finding the surface integral of EDS, then electric field is due to all the charges. But on the right hand side, when I am writing it Q, that is there whatever charge is inside the surface. You have to keep all these things in mind so that it becomes easy for you to solve the numericals. So Gauss law we are using only for making our calculations easy, where I may assume a Gaussian surface because it will be having a symmetry, and with that symmetry I can do my calculations very easily. The surface which is chosen, that is, it should not pass through any discrete charge. It means charge should be inside the surface, it should not be passing over the charge. And of course Gauss law you have seen, it is coming on the basis of the electric field we have taken from Coulomb's law. It means your E is inversely to R square. So inverse square dependence of the distance. Then only Gauss law you can prove. If they give you some other dependence, then we will not be able to prove Gauss law. So Gauss law is actually a convenient way to write the Coulomb's law, or you can say modification over Coulomb's law. The surface which we are choosing for the application of the Gauss law, we have already said this is termed as Gaussian surface. Gaussian surface can pass through the continuous charge distribution, but of course not through the discrete charges. Whenever we talk about any medium of absolute permittivity epsilon, as I have said, then in the expression of Gauss law, epsilon naught is to be replaced by epsilon, or you can replace it by epsilon naught epsilon r. So these things you have to keep in mind while using the Gauss theorem in your numericals or in answering the various questions. When we are talking about the electric flux through the closed surface, as I have spoken earlier, this electric flux can be zero, positive as well as negative. If charge is positive, then it will be coming out. Electric field lines, they will be leaving the surface. If the total charge is positive, then it is outward. Outward is taken as positive, it means theta is lying between 0 and 90. If the total charge is negative, then field direction will be accordingly changed and field lines are entering into the surface. When they are entering into the surface, this is inward flux, positive charge, outward flux. Negative charge, inward flux, negative sign, it means theta is lying between 90 and 180. Zero flux means number of electric field lines entering the surface is equal to the number of field lines leaving the surface. It means whatever field lines will be entering will be more clear with this diagram, I think. If I keep the charge here, this is some surface with me, then field lines are entering into the surface as well as they are leaving the surface. So total flux through this surface will be equals to 0. So flux can be 0, positive and negative. Again, to make you the clear, the Gaussian surface I have written is an hypothetical closed surface which is in 3-dimensional space, through which the flux of a vector field is calculated. That vector field can be electric field, magnetic field, or even it can be the gravitational field. So all these three fields we can use the Gaussian surface, which is a 3-dimensional hypothetical surface. So it can be a sphere, it can be a cube, it can be a cylinder. So any 3-dimensional structure you have to see, but in the diagrams when we show you the sphere in 2 dimension, we simply draw it like this. Similarly for cube, we take a planar surface, we draw it like this. For the point charge, as we have already discussed, whenever we draw the surface, Gaussian surface is always a spherical surface. So this is the three-dimensional view of the spherical surface. This is for the ring. So we can have, you can assume the three-dimensional view to understand the Gauss theorem in a better way, but on the plane we are simply showing you sphere like this. This is simply a method to show you the sphere, but you should know Gaussian sphere is a three-dimensional space. So you have to understand it. We are considering in all the three dimensions. Cylinder can be drawn as a Gaussian surface through the cube, or whatever three-dimensional figure is there that should be having symmetry. And thus we can find the surface integral of the electric field, and thus we can find the flux simply by the knowledge of the Gaussian surface. So the main thing you have to know that it is a three-dimensional space. Simple question for you people, that a charge Q is placed at the center of a cube of side L. Length is given L of each side of the cube. You have to find the flux passing through each face. When we talk about the cube, as you have seen the cube three-dimensional view I have shown you, so we are having 6 faces. Now what is the flux according to Gauss theorem? Phi, it is given by Q upon epsilon naught. This is charge Q is given in the question. So charge enclosed by the closed surface is Q, and epsilon naught is when they are not mentioning any medium, by default you will take the charges kept in air or vacuum. If they will keep it in some medium, they will always mention it in the question. So when they are not mentioning, it is Q upon epsilon naught. So total flux is this, and your cube, it has 6 faces. So flux which is linked with each face is 1 upon 6 times this flux phi, total flux. So it will be equals to Q upon 6 epsilon naught. So this was just to give you an example that this way the simple questions you can try yourself as well. When there are 2 or more charges kept in the surface, you can add the, in your even your NCERT they have given you many questions on the basis of flux. Simple questions you try yourself, so that we can continue in the next class further with the Gauss theorem application and all. Thank you.